Well, thank you for joining our exhibitor tutorial today. This tutorial is going to be on seamless automation from sample management to screening. We are joined today by three of our partners. And for those of you who don't know who HighRes is, HighRes partners with life science organizations to implement intelligent data and lab automation workflows that empower every team member to plan and execute efficient and reproducible science. And today we're joined by three of our partners from Inveda, Pfizer, and Merck. And finally, we're going to hear from Sevan Ibabekci and Joe Cowan from Merck Rahway on evolving our HighRes platforms through real-world lessons to achieve seamless automation with Mosaic LIMS at the core. Sevan Ibabekci is the Associate Director of Engineering Discovery Sample Management at Merck Research Labs in Rahway. Sevan studied at Seton Hall University, where he earned a BSB in Business Management Information Systems. With over 25 years experience in pharmaceutical discovery technology, Sevan specializes in driving operational excellence and innovation in sample management. His expertise spans sample management, automation, vendor relations, project leadership, and budget oversight. Sevan is passionate about exploring new technologies and optimizing drug discovery process to accelerate scientific innovation. And finally, Joe Cowan is a principal scientist within DSM as well. Joe is a graduate of the University of Delaware with a degree in biological science with more than 21 years of compound management experience. So without further
All right. Here to talk about streamlining discovery sample management with HighRes automation. And I'm going to take you through some examples of some of our workflows that we've had, that we've modified some of our equipment over the years to be able to adapt to our changing requirements. So very importantly for us is request fulfillment and the data integration that comes with. So in order for us to be able to process any orders, the most important step is to actually sit down with the people that are submitting your requirements, their requirements to you to be able to fulfill the orders. So you want to be able to figure out what their volume concentration, is it a serial dilution, what their requirements are for a particular order, and whether or not it is something that is going to be standard. So you can actually set up an assay submittal in our Scigilian Request system. So researchers that are working on the same program can just hop into request and then pop in their compound ID, so then they can actually place the same exact type of request for that program. Or if it's a one-off, that they're going to be just submitting individual orders randomly to us. So in Scigilian's request system is integrated with Mosaic. So the front level is what the researchers see, which is request. And there they're able to pop in any compound IDs that they're looking for. And we have it set up with all of the different plate types that we offer. If somebody's looking for a program that uses a special plate type that we don't already have in there, then we can go into set that up into request for that particular assay submit, or have that available for other people to be able to process down the road. So we can do things that are at a single point request. We can do things that are serial diluted. We're also starting to now be able to get into doing things that are using acoustic dispensing that Sevan will show a little bit later on. But we also do very large compound libraries. Those are the microliter scale, and those we actually place directly through Mosaic. So once the order gets placed through a request, it then comes to Mosaic's order fulfillment system. And this is the decision we have. Do we want to put it on a small benchtop instrument such as a TCAN, or do we want to put it onto the larger cells that we have from HighRes? So this is the newest version of Mosaic, which is Mosaic 9. We're in the process of upgrading from 7 to 9, and they've changed their UI a little bit, so you can see that here. In there, you can a researcher will be able to then submit their order that came from request that comes to us on the Mosaic level, that will then validate the order. Make sure that we have sufficient sample for that request. We use a dead volume. Our major storage tube is a 1.4 ml matrix tubes that have separate seals that we'll be able to then decap and hold on our cell that I'll show you a little later on. We might have to make an intermediate plate, or we can go directly from the tubes into a diamond plate or a acoustic tube. So the acoustic tubes, we have some 655Ts that we can then process that on one of the cells that we have there. And the picture on the right is showing you just an example of the plate map that we may have that we're going to be able to be making on the cell. So the way that we have our integration with Titian's Mosaic and HighRes is we have their module called the Cellario fulfillment module. What CFM for short does is it takes any order that is compatible with the cells that we have, and it makes it available for the end user to be able to select. Once you select that order, we have two ways of processing it. We could either do it as a block replication order, meaning that every tube rack that is pulled out is able to be processed at the same time. Or we also have the ability to take an order that's only for a few samples and combine them with other requests and do something called a block cherry pick. So we'll be treating a 96 well head like it was being an 8-channel individual sample head. And that way we'll be able to process each of those orders in a quicker manner than actually having like TCAN cherry pick the orders out. So just showing an example of after you select your order, you then see all the requirements that you've already set up with your order, and then you can then continue to process it. Once the order has been processed in CFM, it gets sent over to Cobb. So that is HighRes' Cellario order broker. What Cobb is, it's a intermediate level that allows more flexibility than is native to Cellario today. Down the road, a lot of the features that are available in Cobb are being moved over into Cellario OS. And that's going to be something that we're going to look through down the road to be able to streamline and also have all of our other flexibilities that we've been given in Cobb. So in Cobb, you can then see the requirements for the particular order that you set up, how many copies you have, and then you could set up the locations that you're storing all of your racks or your tip boxes or your output plates. And then you can then be able to select that order there. You then submit it in Cobb, and then you can scan and validate. So what scan and validate will do on the system is it'll look for all of where the sources are, your destinations and your tip boxes. It'll do a little count. It'll do a little verification to make sure your order is ready to be processed. Once it's been scanned and validated in Cobb, the order then gets sent over to Cellario, and that's where you start it. So this is Cellario 4.2. The cells I'm about to show you now is still using an older version of Cellario, but we're in the process of potentially upgrading those into the newest and latest and greatest versions of Cellario that's on-prem. So these are the two cells that we have. So these are mirror images of the exact same cell. We have on them 2 primes, and we are utilizing the liquid handling capabilities on our primes, not just using it for storage. A little bit more flexibility we have there. We could talk offline about the use of that. The cool part I like about the primes is it's able to then do a thing called tray pooling. So it's able to process 2 plates that within your request at the same time. You're able to pull all the tip boxes that are stored underneath of it to be able to move it onto the deck. We have on our cells right now, we have 2 Denso robots, and they're the ones that are be able to move all of our racks or plates around to the different places on the cell. We have 6 decappers for our 1.4 ml tubes. We have a 0.75 tube decapper. We also had an acoustic tube decapper. We have HighRes' microspin. And we recently upgraded from a Predator red and white for our DMSO edition to a D2. So HighRes was able to write a driver for the D2 to be able to have that seamlessly integrated into our system. We also have been in the process of upgrading our older decappers to the new IntelliX decappers. So they had to write the driver for that and to come and reconfigure some of the places on our deck. So the cool part about working with HighRes is that you're able to use those carts and those feet that have that store all of the different equipment very easily to be able to then reconfigure to have the robots be able to touch it. So this is the way it is configured today. But in the past, when we first got our cells, we actually had 6-axis KUKA robots. In the beginning, it was great. They worked really, really well during the pandemic, especially. But at some point, KUKA really wasn't working that well with some of their smaller people that have some small units there, so such as HighRes. And we got together with HighRes and then decided, hey, it seems like KUKA is not supporting our industry as well as they should be, especially at this critical time. So what we can do for you is actually let's work on upgrading it from KUKAs to Densos. So the only issue with that is that Densos are a lot stronger and it's not a collaborative robot where we show here that we have sensors that are on there that allowed the Denso to be able to, the KUKA to be able to slow down if somebody approached it. So Denso said, hey, can you please put machine guarding around the cell if you're going to purchase these from us? So we did that, and that is the next generation of what we have today. We're very happy to say that in this past last year, we processed more samples than we've ever had on the cell, and it worked flawlessly and very reliably. And we're in the process of starting another campaign to process even more millions and millions of compounds on the cells. So this is just showing you a little bit more about what Prime is. So a selling point for Prime is the ability to be able to swap heads on the fly based upon whatever your order type is. So if you see here on the right, we have 4 different head types. We have an independent Z-axis, the IZ8. So it's more like a TCAN where it's independent channels that are able to do pipetting that way. We have a low volume 70 microliter head, a high volume 70 microliter head, and a 384 well head. So on our cells right now, we're mostly going from tube to an intermediate plate, and then from an intermediate plate to a 1536. So we can do that either on the same cell with separate orders, or we can do that on the 2 different cells that we have right now. Another really good part about the Prime is that the heads that you actually have on there, you can send them back to HighRes, and they can for any of their PMs, they're able to then be able to get those ready and to calibrate them again to send them back, so you're never down, which is wonderful. So I'm going to pass this off to Sevan to talk a little bit about our other cell, 199.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, so I want to talk about our third HighRes system, which is actually our first one, MC199. We don't have any clever, cute namings either, Rich, on our, we're whatever HighRes named them at birth, we just kept that name. I joined Merck back in 2017, and we had inherited this system from our Pennsylvania site. And back then we had 4 acoustic dispensers that the system revolved around, a Denso arm, and an old microblast air knife, which I think is in the HighRes Museum in Beverly right now. So all these, the acoustic dispensers and the air knife are no longer for sale on the market, maybe on eBay or something, you can find them. But so over the years, we slowly started making upgrades, removing the ATSs and getting an Echo. And at the end of last year, we finalized our long phase 1 upgrade of the system. So we replaced a lot of our end of life devices, and the big change was also upgrading our software to Cellario 4.2 and upgrading our Cobb version. So Cellario 4.2 is the latest version that integrates with Cobb. Anything higher than that, we would have to switch to Cellario OS, which I'll touch on in a little bit. So, but here is the current design of the system. We still have the KUKA arm, works great, but that is end of life at the end of this year. But last year we added a Ambi store. I had a microserve there. I took that out. So we wanted more random access capability. So we put Ambi store there. Joe touched on the D2 on the other 2 systems. We put one of those on here. That's by UK Robotics. It's a neat little reagent dispenser. Gives you a lot of flexibility, and HighRes wrote a great driver for it. What's cool about it is you could buy a Mettler Toledo balance, attach it to it, and it'll self-calibrate itself on your different liquid classes. So I recommend you go checking out UK Robotics downstairs and that nifty little device. Free plug for them. I added a microspin on there. We had a high G, which was a little bit overkill for what we were doing. So I wanted more space on the system. So I swapped that out for the microspin. I have a Bravo cart, a Bravo on a cart. We have that now full-time docked on the system. You can see the Echo there. Underneath the Echo, I have 2 Azenta acoustic decappers. So for any of the acoustic tube work that we have to do on there. So that's what happened at the end of this year, last year. And then this year, we plan on doing hopefully the last upgrade to this, because it's been exhausting 9 years trying to upgrade the system. But so the big tickets here is going to be replacing the Denso. We're going to get a Nucleus Z cell pod in the middle, and then we're adding a second Echo on a cart. So to start supporting some of the throughput needs that's coming into our into discovery sample management with the acoustic requests that we have. So that's going to be the 2 biggest items that we're getting here. I'm going to get another microserve, a new one, I think. Am I? Maybe. Yeah, I think so. And then, yeah, so a couple of little other devices also, but the big ones, like I said, is the Echo and the arm. So excited about that. All right. So I'm going to talk about our key consideration challenges, lessons learned, very similar to Rich or what he says. So he stole some of my thunder, but I'm just going to repeat it. But you know, it just shows you that throughout the industry, you have same pain points and things to look out for. And so first thing we did was we have to engage with our stakeholders, understand what their current needs are and what they're thinking about doing long term, right? And once you get an idea of that, you want to build flexible systems. And that's when HighRes comes into play, right? So with their cart systems and everything you could do there, you know, you are able to build flexible systems, you know. Engage with IT. So we're currently going through the process with IT and Drew and to get Cellario OS in the Merck network. So that's a heavy lift and a lot of testing that needs to be done, a proof of concept to get that approved and get it into our network. So IT is heavily involved with these type of upgrades. Safety, always engage with them. You know, machine guarding is big at Merck, so you want to make sure that you get the correct machine guarding. And I did not give a shout out to facilities, so I should, and there's a lot of facilities work there. Next, yeah, do your research, come to events like this, talk to customers, tell Drew to, you know, give you my number, we'll talk. So that's always good. Do your research. Service contract from vendors, that is a lifeline for us. We need them. We have, I think, the platinum or diamond package, whatever you charge us, the most expensive one. But yeah, without them, we wouldn't be able to survive probably. And the quick turnaround time to minimize how long our systems are down and getting parts in, like Joe mentioned, they'll just ship us prime heads. We'll just throw them on there. We'll send the other ones back for repair. So all that is very important. As you start developing and testing your system through FAT, through SAT, or even when you're in a new system, or even you start going to production, you're going to start realizing that you might have missed some requirements, some little things here and there that you'd be like, oh, it's going to make my life easier if the system could do this. So you'll end up going through a couple more phases of enhancements and, you know, going back and forth with HighRes and getting those things developed. So try to, if possible, budget for a little bit like that for the unknowns that might come down the road. I believe staff skill sets is very important. If you have people that are more familiar with the systems and are automation friendly, it'll help you keep the systems running longer and keep them happier. Track all management of changes, everything you do, document as much as you can, just so you have you understand what's all the things that you guys have been working on, especially with like liquid classes we like to do that in case something goes wrong, we could revert back some of the settings and all that kind of stuff. One of the problems we're working on actually is intermittent crashes on 199. My former intern's actually in here and she helped solve this problem. We didn't have cameras on the 199, so she set up her cell phone on there and just recorded. And we just sat there after like 4 or 5 hours and just reviewed the videotape and finally saw what was causing the crashes. And it was kind of crazy. It's like we had just recently adjusted the speed of the robot arm, and that caused it enough to crash every like 90 minutes or so. It wasn't every time. It was just the perfect timing of the ambi spatula arm coming out at the same time as the Denso arm was going to the other nest on the ambi. So when we do upgrade, I am getting cameras on 199. So not everything is fully integrated through the Mosaic workflow that Joe was explaining. Sometimes we get some complicated requests. And then so what we do is we do create offline tools and different workflows to try to fill in those gaps. Some of the other things we did was optimizing the Cellario scripts. One of the things as you're getting used to your system and going through your production workflow and stuff, you'll realize that maybe I don't need this step, or I don't need to spin the plate as long and this and that. So there's ways to optimize Cellario scripting. And when we first got the systems that Joe talked about, we ran into a lot of tip manufacturing issues for the primes. HighRes worked closely with us and with their manufacturers. They re-engineered the design of the tip boxes. The tip boxes were like coming apart when loading the tips and stuff. So, but they were great, working diligently on that with the manufacturing and got that straightened out pretty fast and was able to swap out our stock of tips. And we were able to overcome that. So that's just a few of the points that I want to say. And here's the list of our discovery sample management folks, and along with my team, my colleagues, and also big shout out to not HRB, HighRes support team, and Sunevo, formerly esthetician, support team also. Like I said, without those guys, we would be not getting very far. Thank you.